For Creamer Media's Polity, I'm Shannon Durayhove. Researcher and analyst Professor Raymond Suttner joins me for Suttner's View, a weekly commentary on South Africa's political scene. Welcome, Raymond.
Thank you.
Can you tell us, what do you see as the significance of the Nkandla report?
I don't want to reel off statistics and numbers, but the first thing that comes to mind is that a huge amount of public money has been diverted into enrichment of the president. For the rest of his life, he will have what is much more than a home. It's almost a village on its own, for his own benefit, and he seems to be very unconcerned about this. He's made no comment himself, and the ANC has almost suggested that this report of the public protector confirms their own report, the government's own report of the Department of Public Works. So, to go back to a focus on the sense that people have of outrage, I think the outrage relates to, first of all, diversion of funds from one type of budgetary allocation to another. Most startling is that one of the sets of funds from which there was a diversion was funds set aside for meeting basic needs. Now, we've had protests the whole year about basic needs. Now, when people are protesting about basic needs, they're not protesting about some debatable issue. It is a constitutional right to have these basic needs met. So that what has happened in a range of ways through Nkandla is that the oath of office of a cabinet minister, president, member of parliament, demands that they abide and advance the constitution of the Republic of South Africa. And they failed to do this. So we're dealing with what is really an undermining or subversion of the constitutional order. We've seen how this has been done in, first of all, giving a lot of wrong information. For example, that you can't photograph Nkandla, by their declaring it a national key point. All of these were attempts to try and limit information about what was done. Now, why they wanted to limit information is because what was done has been shown to be a misappropriation of public money, if not fraud. You also have a situation where the private architect of the president is brought in to oversee the process. Now, we have this situation which is similar to the landing at of the Guptas, where someone is understood to speak on behalf of the president. Now, the president's architect is seen to speak on behalf of the president. He is the primary contractor, and he was enabled through that position to determine what expenditure there was, and the more that was spent, the higher the amount, the percentage that would accrue to him as a consultant. So we've seen that he's made over 16 million rands on this. It also appears that while this is depicted as a security improvement, a range of security measures employed to protect the president, that the architect has no experience in security matters. Most of the service providers have no security experience, nor were most of them cleared from a security point of view. So if the government has been pleading that investigations should be limited because of the sensitivity of this from a security point of view, they themselves violated that at the center of the project.
Mm-hmm.
So I see this as manifesting patronage in the use of the president's architect, misappropriation of funds, which appear to be fraud, provision of false information, for example, that Zuma says he has a bond, failure to provide information. It is said the president was, about 6 or 7 letters were sent to him requesting information. That information has still not been provided. So that we see a situation where the constitutional duty as a holder of public office to protect the resources of the state has been undermined in the interests of enlarging the resources of a private individual who is the president of the country.
Mm.
Now that is an attack not only on our funds, but an attack on our democracy, because we do not seem to have a power to bring measures to hold the president to account.
How can we ensure that there is no repetition of this misspending and misappropriation in the future?
You see, this is the problem that we face, in that clearly, or let's say the public protector was quite cautious in what she recommended. She first of all said that it didn't seem that the president had consciously misled Parliament. Now, it's a very generous finding, that. But then she says he must pay a reasonable proportion back. Now, what does that mean? Because when previous presidents have had minuscule amounts spent on them compared with this, he has been substantially enriched.
Mm.
What does it mean? And how can we be sure that he will pay it back? And it seems to me that we're facing a situation where, because the ANC is indifferent to this, or let's say, insofar as long as they want to keep Zuma as their president, they learn to live with this. And we cannot be sure that whoever takes his place will not act in the same way, because patterns of public office have now been established in a very, very obscene way.
Mm.
And we also know that if the president does pay back, it may entail, as I've indicated in an article that I've just submitted to Polity, it may entail that he borrows money from one or other unsavory character.
Mm.
And that reinforces a range of relationships around the president, patronage relationships, relationships that are on the borderline between legality and illegality. So we have a problem. ANC is going to be re-elected. What do we do about it? Personally, I'm not convinced that the DA is any less anti-poor than the ANC is showing itself to be. In the Western Cape, you will find that the services in Bishop's Court and places like that are very different from the poorest areas like Khayelitsha, Gugulethu, and places like that. You've got similar problems with basic needs to that which you find in some of the worst ANC municipalities. Also, I think the whole message of the DA, the whole focus of the DA is in terms of scoring points against the ANC. Motions of no confidence, they go to the highest court over that. But do they go to the highest court over basic needs? Now, if they went to the highest court over basic needs, they would demonstrate that their resources are devoted, unlike the ANC, to the needs of the poorest of the poor. So what I would suggest is that we need to devote our attention to building a broad citizens' movement, broader, as I've said before, than the NUMSA initiative, involving all who want to restore constitutionalism, defend democracy, and see that the people of this country benefit from public wealth.
Thank you for your insight. That was Professor Raymond Suttner speaking about politics and elections in South Africa.